And the next evolution is automated system going after automated system. And it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about that. Here comes a swarm attack, fully automated, and it's being defended by an autonomous system. Who wins that battle?
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 344. How can we protect against drone swarms and other next-generation threats? For that question, we head to Colorado to speak with Ken Geyer, CEO and co-founder of Liteye Systems, and Keven Gambold, CEO and co-founder of Unmanned Experts. Liteye Systems is a world leader and technology solutions manufacturer and integrator of military and commercial Counter UAS systems. Unmanned Experts is a world-leading provider of subject matter expertise in the fields of autonomous robots, swarms, UTM, and mass data. The companies recently formed a partnership to address drone swarms. Ken is an entrepreneur who has launched 8 companies, including co-founding and starting Liteye back in January of 2000. From virtual reality hardware and software to the new frontier of counter-unmanned systems, his focus has been on developing and advancing products that provide end users with the tools to achieve their goals. Keven completed 21 years of active duty service with the Royal Air Force as a frontline combat pilot. He has more than 1,500 hours in Tornado GR4 fast jets, as well as over 1,500 hours of unmanned combat missions. He completed his tours as the Senior Standards Evaluator and Project Officer for both multi-aircraft control and advanced UAV cockpit programs. In this edition of the Drone Radio Show, Ken and Keven talk about their respective companies, the current state of UAS threats, and the evolving threat posed by UAS swarm technology. But before we hear from Ken and Keven, I want to thank those of you who are supporting my funding campaign. Whether it's $1, $100, or much more, you can help defray the cost of production and keep the podcast going and growing. Go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And by the way, if you have a great story on the use of drones that you'd like to share in a podcast, contact me at randy@droneradioshow.com. So let's learn how we can protect against drone swarms and other next-generation counter-UAS threats with Ken Geyer of Liteye Systems and Keven Gambold of Unmanned Experts. Let's pick up the interview where I ask Ken and Keven to introduce themselves.
Afternoon. This is Kenneth Geyer, CEO of Liteye Systems. We're a 22-year-old company, defense contractor. We've been in the Counter UAS battle since 2015.
Hi, Keven Gambold. I'm the boss at Unmanned Experts. We're a small tech firm based out of Denver, Colorado, alongside Liteye. That's how we have this relationship. We've been predominantly working in the small UAS field now, a lot of research, development, and test and flight evaluations.
Let's learn about the companies. Ken, can you start by sharing what Liteye Systems does?
Liteye has developed a layered approach for countering drones, actually counting unmanned, airborne, and ground-based at this point. And we've done that since 2015. We bring in different technologies to give us that layered approach. Radars, thermal cameras, daylight cameras, electronic warfare suites, RF detection. We work with different weapon systems, everything from 30 millimeter gun to a high-powered microwave to lasers to a net gun. So all kinds of different capabilities. This all started for us, back in 2015 and working with the Army REF, the Rapid Equipping Force, to get product that could be sent downrange to Iraq immediately, which we did in 2016 and went into combat. And we've been deployed in over 8 countries, since then. We're actively protecting U.S. Air Force bases from airborne drones, Group 1, 2, 3. And over the time frame, we've got a ton of experience now and feedback and all kinds of other intel points from the different systems that are deployed around the world in hotspots.
So basically, Liteye brings together the hardware and software in a configuration that supports the mission of your clients.
Correct. And then we do the follow-on. We train the field service reps, the operators, keep them all state of the art, especially when it comes to, the advancing threat.
Keven, tell us about Unmanned Experts. What services or products do you provide?
So we've been around 10 years. We were initially a consultancy firm for the larger stuff. Most of the guys had got out of the military flying, in my case, Predators and Reapers. So we moved into the smaller UAS just as that sector started to kick off. And we actually got into managed services. We were the number one bridge inspection company in the country for a very short period of time. But now our focus is on unmanned traffic management and developing programs like the UTM, the air traffic control of UAS, the command and control of small UAS, as well as now we've expanded that into swarms. So we're running a number of swarm programs, which is actually where the Liteye team are really helping us out. That has naturally progressed into AAM, which is the new term for urban air mobility. UAM is now called advanced air mobility. So think Jetsons, flying taxis, these sort of things. These automated platforms could be very much seen in the same ilk as where the small UAS are going. So we've got our toes dipped into that pond as well. So, but swarms is what brought us to Liteye, although we've been working together for many moons. And AAM is probably going to keep us together for a while.
The Counter-UAS threat has grown and evolved over the past several years. Can you give us an idea of how it's changed and the type of threats that we see today? Ken, would you like to start?
It's really evolved quickly over the last 5 years. I mean, we went from a DJI Phantom as, one of the main offensive weapons that were being utilized in Iraq and Afghanistan. Those evolved into a lot of homemade fixed wing kind of targets. But, we're seeing, the big players entering Iran, Russia, China, and the proliferation of the drones they developed are popping up everywhere. There's just a story this morning showing the pictures of the new kamikaze drone from Iran parked in Venezuela. So, what is Venezuela going to use this for? Those are the same kind of drones that have been used by the Houthi rebels in Saudi Arabia that attacked Saudi Aramco oil fields about 18 months ago. So, and continue to attack a lot of different forces in and out of there. The same drones our troops are seeing in Iraq and Syria, going after the airports, going after the air bases, where we're stationed, all those kind of things. So you're seeing the threat evolve to smaller players having access to the highest end tech, by these international players. The arms market is alive and well in the drone area. So, we're seeing everything from them being used for ISR, being utilized for, weapons platforms, being utilized as, strong arm cyber warfare platforms, you name it, they're finding ways to use them. And it's rapidly spread across the world. Knock on wood, we haven't seen a lot here. A couple months ago, we saw the report come out from the FBI of the drone that tried to attack one of our electrical substations. That would have been a key substation. It was unsuccessful, but that was probably the first time we've seen something that wasn't targeted here in the U.S. on a military base. And it's a continuing issue in the military bases here, for ISR. It's funny how drones always seem to fly over the most sensitive areas of the base, so we've seen a lot of growth coming out of places that were unexpected and tremendous growth out of the ones we expected it to come from.
Keven, how about you?
So we've been pursuing what we think is probably one of the next stages in the evolution of the UAS world, and that is swarms. And there's a lot of overlap with both, a mass autonomous control of swarms and how we see, urban air mobility and sort of the next phase of all these flying taxis autonomously taking people around cities. So two of those programs have a lot of overlap. But from a swarm's perspective, we are on an Air Force program to develop a planning command and control system called Air Common Swarm. And we are in the process of bringing that together with Liteye's offerings so that they will be able to use our system to not only have visibility on the good swarms, but also have a way of tracking the bad swarms and taking care of those. So, when I track all of the swarm headlines and Counter tracks all of the Counter UAS headlines, there are more and more of those headlines overlapping. So there was some quite intriguing use of multi-UAVs in Syria, and we think this is going to continue. So this is definitely a foot stomp area that I think people should pay attention to.
That's a real big evolution from what Kevin's hitting on. I mean, swarm attacks that we called swarms in 2017, 2018 in the Battle of Mosul and those areas, they were just 5 individual drones coming from 5 different directions. That is not really a swarm as we know it today and what it's become. And as those technologies and autonomous technologies especially come to bear, I mean, like Keven was pointing out, you could attack one single target with, 100 drones. And you got to be ready to defend that many targets.
In regard to swarms, the old science fiction movies would say, knock out the leader drone, and all of the other drones would fall to the wayside. But it's not that simple, right?
Not the way we're designing ours, because we're looking at mesh networks. So there is an inherent level of resilience when each aircraft can talk to each other aircraft and get the message across. They can take over different roles. There is normally a weakness, a key node or a quarterback node or something, but it can be replaced rapidly. And so there are many fascinating developments in that sort of area. And that is certainly keeping us on our toes.
And there's a good example of that. Last year at that Chinese demonstration, they had a light show with drones, dozens and dozens of drones. And a couple of them fell out, crashed to the ground, but the show continued and the drones filled in the gap. I mean, that was an impressive on many different reasons. One, it showed you kind of what would happen if you dropped all those things over a city, but it also showed that they were resilient to continue on operating, even though 8 or 9 of them dropped out of the sequence. So, just imagine where that'll be in a few years.
So what's the strategy for mitigating or defending against swarm attacks?
It's a combination of all different kinds of technologies. I mean, there's the technology that Kevin's developing at Unmanned Experts is going to be a big role in that. And then it's the defeat capabilities. Tracking them is not a problem any longer. We've got multiple different technologies and radars and RF sensing and all kinds of things that are working together to do the detection of thousands of targets. But the big thing is going to be, where are you handing those targets off to? What can be jammed, what needs to be taken out by a kinetic kill, like a laser or a microwave or 30 millimeter round or something like that. And, these are all going to be coordinated. They're going to be coming in. So you need to be able to take them out in mass, not just sections of them. So it's going to be a big challenge. It is being looked into in many companies and many branches of our government military. There's a lot of research going on, and that's why Keven being in the forefront of it is a very exciting partnership for us.
Well, it's interesting. So DARPA just concluded a 5-year program called OFFSET, Offensive Swarm-Enabled Technology. That's actually how we got into this program about 5 years ago. We kind of scratched the surface as a subcontractor in one of their sprints. And it struck me there was a lot more to this when you start digging. So that's where we've gone in one direction. But the DARPA program flew, I think it was nigh on 500 assets in 2 waves, both air and ground. So basically 250 aircraft, all coordinated with each other. And so they had 2 teams and they took totally different approaches. One was empowering the drones themselves, having a mesh network and allowing them to work out what's going on. And the other one was using a hub that, had all of the brains and the pieces in there. And the actual reports of that haven't come out yet. So I think the debrief is in next month. I think there is a lot to learn. I think when I started I did a literature search as part of the program, and the stuff you uncover is really, truly awe-inspiring. I'll give you an example. So if you program 50 drones to go and do the same thing, and you're in a hostile environment, well, the last 48 aren't going to make it. They're going to fly over the same bit of land at the same height, at the same speed, X seconds later. So you need to literally add a randomization function in there. And that goes so far as almost giving these various drones personalities, giving them stereotypes so that they operate in a slightly different fashion to the others. And when you start getting into that and the program, the software development piece of it, it puts a smile on a lot of people's faces because it's fascinating stuff.
What can each of you share with us on the prevalence of drone threats today?
I have to be honest. I mean, when I was a Predator pilot, which was nigh on 10 years ago, no, maybe 15 years ago, I was on exchange with the American Air Force. I'm now over here full time. But the US Air Force had cornered the market on drone tactics, drone utility. It was a very one-sided show. But that has all changed, and it's changing even more rapidly. And as Sir Kenneth pointed out about, significantly capable drone systems showing up in Venezuela and in Mexico and all of these areas is really eye-watering. But the air war in Libya and Azerbaijan recently, over the last sort of 4 or 5 years, has sort of managed to pass some of the information that comes out through various sources. And the advancement of all nation capability in terms of what single, multiple drones, admittedly, human in the loop drone coordination can do has been shocking. And we should really, this is why getting shares in Liteye is probably a good idea, because, it's no longer a US game. It is all the players have a vote now, and we need to protect ourselves in this. But for swarming, it's still it's a nascent capability. And we haven't seen anything coordinated and automated to the sort of extent and the sort of size that we're talking about. We've seen 5, 6, 10 assets launched in the Middle East, and they all use different approach routes, and they do the classic case of overwhelming the defenses. And that effectively could be described as swarm, but we on this side are looking to take that a little bit further. Add AI, ML, provide swarm operators with some sort of, overview, some, augmented reality, human swarm interfacing. There's more to go. So I'd say we've scratched the surface, but I don't think we're at the level where you could go, wow, that was a full-on swarm attack.
The fascinating thing from our seat has been that everything was man-driven. Drone was driven by man. Our defensive systems were driven by man. Then we got the man out of the loop on our side, and now we're seeing the man, being on the loop for on the drone and the swarm side. And the next evolution is automated system going after automated system. And it's kind of mind-boggling when you think about that. Here comes a swarm attack, fully automated, and it's being defended by an autonomous system. Who wins that battle? We're going to find out, but these are things that we've got to get in the field with, and we've got to be developing as well as developing the way to defend them.
It almost gets down to who has the better AI.
Yep.
You're not wrong. Who's got the better algorithms? Whose algorithms can watch what they're doing and be them? And this is some of the work we have pitched to the Air Force and to various other agencies to develop. And we would very much like to be doing this with Liteye's latest iteration of the Counter UAS program, Shield, which is exceptional.
Building on that, there was a recent announcement of a partnership between Unmanned Experts and Liteye on defending against swarm incursions. How did the partnership come about?
As graybeards, Keven and I have been working together since 2013, I think, at this point. I believe we started working out with doing payloads for Keven's drones, and thermal payloads and different payloads. And then as the Counter UAS came on, we were doing red team work together and everything else. So it has been two Colorado companies, Rocky Mountain Cowboys, and basically going after what the warfighter needs. That's what's driven us a lot. And then relationship-wise, Keven, I think we've had a basic agreement partnership for just probably just as long as we've met.
It does make it easy because there's a lot of trust in there. And I have to be honest, I was over in their facilities probably November as we picked up our latest swarm box, which they're building for us. And they're just an incredible team. A lot of veterans and a lot of just extremely smart, very dedicated folks. So we're big fans of working with Liteye, I'll be honest.
Liteye does have a history of forming strategic partnerships with subject matter experts. So this isn't all that new for the company, right, Ken?
Yeah, over the 22 years, this is how we've always approached everything. We know we're not going to corner the market on the best ideas. So we've brought in different partners in different areas of our business. Again, what is going to result in the best solution for the warfighter out there? And that's how we've always approached it. And, we've been lucky to partner with people like Keven and Unmanned Experts over the years. We've found great partnerships all over the place. And even outside the U.S., we've got great partners out of the U.K., and it's been a very enjoyable way to do business.
When looking to deliver the best solution for our military, it's very focused, and everyone seems to be on board with that. But in the commercial sector, there's competition and a more proprietary view of knowledge sharing. Are there lessons from your experience in forming strategic alliances that can be brought into the commercial sector and provide value to all?
When it comes to our market, yes, especially when you start to try to protect the critical infrastructure out there, not just oil infrastructure and chemical infrastructure, nuclear plants, but we're going to need new approaches, and we're going to have to find ways to cut the cost and offer different solutions for different facilities in all those areas, because it's not just a military problem. I mean, just a few days ago in Ethiopia, a drone attacked a flour manufacturing location, attacking the food source for Ethiopia, killed 17 people and took out the flour mill. So, when you look at this changes the way people approach security on all kinds of different industries. And we're going to have to make tough calls on what needs the top-notch system to protect and what doesn't. And, we're going to only do that through different partnerships and finding new ways to bring the solution to those different marketplaces. I think the biggest lesson we've learned is to stay open and listen to everybody. There's going to be bad ideas. There's going to be good ideas. There's going to be those ideas that maybe don't work right now, but 2-3 years from now are going to be really, something that we're needing. We kind of keep tabs of everybody we talk to, and, we reach back into that database when we need something and say, oh, I remember somebody we talked to that, did this, and let's go talk to them, see where they're at. That network is probably one of the most critical things when it comes to our industry and evolving with what's coming. So, the different threats and, in different areas, just not only the counter UAS part of us. We do air-based defense and air-based protection and things. We have a lot of security and hardware assets out at places like Balad Air Base. So, there's going to be different things, different missions, different threats, depending on who we're talking to. But it'll definitely carry over to the commercial side.
Turning to unmanned traffic management systems, from my perspective, it seems like UTM and Counter UAS had been evolving along separate tracks. But there's clearly an opportunity to consider more integrated solutions. Is that happening?
From our point of view, absolutely. We actually we had a program last year called Air Commons Blue, which was designed to do just that, was to integrate a couple of different feeds, air domain awareness feeds, but also with a counter UAS program. And that's led into a phase 2 pitch, which we're hoping to find out about in the next couple of weeks, which would tie us very closely with Liteye to do just that, to make the air traffic control and counter UAS piece one and the same.
The benefits of drones out there is, every day you're hearing about some new way somebody's improvised. They used an unmanned system to do some job, and you got all these great drones out there. So you've got to have the counter UAS interwoven into it so that you can keep the good guys going and doing what they're supposed to do, and take out that rogue drone that's flying around, or the rogue swarm, or whatever else is out there. And you got to do it quickly. You imagine a city picture where you've got Amazon deliveries and taxis and all these kind of things going on, and you've got a rogue player in there. You've got to be able to identify them and eliminate them as quickly as possible.
Does urban air mobility add a different level of complexity? Or are drones drones, regardless of what they're transporting?
Well, I mean, the moment you strap a little pink body into it, the certification requirements go through the roof. So there's a tremendous amount of work going on and some very, very interesting methods that they're trying to get through certification. So the military have built a parallel program here, which is excellent to see because I think they see the concept of these electric vertical takeoff assets, these eVTOLs, have really some quite staggering use cases in the military. But if they sit on their haunches and wait for the FAA to certify them, they'll never see them until we all have great grandkids. So the military are taking a lead under a program called Agility Prime, which we've been tied in with a little bit. So I think they're going to get the aircraft certified ahead of time before the Air Force does. But, you got to ask yourself, are you comfortable strapping into, a metal box controlled by a Johnny cab with 8 whirling blades of death above you and just say, take me to the airport? And this has always been the issue of, what is your comfort level? What's your trust level in the AI? Ultimately, when we have self-driving cars, which we effectively do now, then it won't be a problem. But that idea has to populate.
A system that's carrying a human or multiple humans is, it's big. We're not going to have trouble tracking those kind of drones. It's always the small players that are the thorn in your side for making sure you detect them, and especially in an urban environment where they're dodging in and out of buildings and alleyways and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, the bigger right now, it's like tracking any other aircraft for us.
What's your thoughts on the future of counter UAS?
I mean, I'm always shocked and stunned when I read press releases and go, wait, it does what? Really? They can do that now? And every time I go over to Liteye's, fairly substantial premises, and I'm like, how? Really? Why? I was only here last year. I mean, the developments are rapid and they're way ahead of my curve.
I think a lot of what we're seeing right now is the automation part. There's a lot of investment going into automating the systems. In many senses, we still want a man on the loop that can pulling the trigger. But I think as things speed up, that's going to become more and more difficult. So automation is going to play a huge role on the counter UAS side. We went from 2016, one operator, one system, handling all the different hardware, to one operator now monitoring more or less and making the final decision on multiple systems, 3, 4, 5 systems at a time. And a lot of the decisions are being made for them. And that's going to have to even increase further. So there's a lot of investment in that area and a lot of work being done there. The other side of it is the kill chain, the end of the kill chain. What are you going to be able to utilize in development of lasers, as we all see in the press all the time? Liteye is working actively in a lot of different laser programs, microwave, high power microwave programs, net guns, 30 millimeter prox rounds that go inert after they pass the target so that you don't have any collateral downrange. All of these are going to play a different role in there. And there's a lot of money being spent in those areas. And then Kevin's part, where you're having to manage this. You've got not only a crowded airspace with a lot of targets, but you've got ground targets coming in that are unmanned. These all have to be managed. These all have to be quick decisions have to be made. So we're seeing a lot of development in that management system area. And I think we'll continue to see that as it comes. We've got to make quick calls, quick decisions, and bring to bear the best solution on that target. That also taking in mind what's available. What can it call on? If there's only a jammer in the area, that's what it's got to use. If there's all these different technologies, then it'll be able to go through that list quickly and decide what's best against what's targets. And that's a lot of work. That's going to be a heavy load to lift.
In the past several years, there's been a lot of progress made on UAS and counter UAS. But moving forward, where do you feel are the areas that need more attention?
Obviously, there was this great hope that we would be inundated with drones doing amazing things, delivering pizzas and inspecting power lines, and it hasn't come to pass. And, the Part 107 came out and everybody went, this is it. And then, oh, no, we just need to be lost. That's going to be it. It really just hasn't. Obviously, NASA went through the UTM process, and Lance built up around, the backside of that, waiting for it to come. It's been sat with the FAA for, a year and a half, 2 years coming on now. So, it's not, I don't feel the love in terms of getting the commercial sector up and running in the route it's going now. And that's why I think there just seems to be more pizzazz behind AAM. I think that an AAM system, which is the way NASA's building it, is effectively on the back of UTM. And instead of them being called USSs, they're now called PSUs, Provider of Services to UAM. So this program has a little bit more oomph to it, I feel. And I think that when larger automated platforms become certified and can fly, and they should be flying this year in test and evaluation, but I feel UAS will be dragged along with it. And it's way past time. I mean, I'm as disappointed as anyone about how the industry's gone.
And from our side of things, on the counter side, it's, we need more funding needs to be devoted to exercises. And still, here we are, 5 years, we've been talking about, a home for Counter UAS where you go and try all this new tech. Regulation is always in the way. There's so many, decades and decades of different regulations that have to be overcome that never looked for these kind of technologies or capabilities. And it makes it hard. And then COVID came along and it really shut down the military exercises to a major extent. That's something we're going to have to address. We have to be practicing. We have to be doing live fire. We can't go and put on a auto show all the time and just show hardware and say, hey, look how pretty and how it works. It's got to be 24-hour live event where you've got drones coming in at all different times. Everybody's, the drone side of things, is coming in, the unmanned portion, they're attacking you, and you're defending an area. And we've got to play with things we're seeing in the field. We have to understand what that capability is evolving to and how they're making these changes out there in the real world. And we're not. Too many times things we do are beauty contests, not, battle proven or battle simulated activities. And we've got to put the money in that side of things too. Investing in the tech's great, but until we get it out in the field in a real scenario, we don't know how great. That tech seems good, but.
Is there no coordinated effort on behalf of the military or another federal agency for that kind of support?
Yeah, we're going there. The JCO, which the Pentagon stood up, is doing its work, and it's now coming on. And COVID was slowed that down to a bit as well. But we still don't have a dedicated Counter UAS, facility. There's not a place where in the map you say, hey, this is where we can go and bring our tech and test it and fly it against a qualified red team and see how we do. And then on the other side of it is we're learning too, because some of this tech might be used against us to defend against our drones, our swarms. So, how do we counter the counter? How do we, do so many different things? And we're going there. I just would love to see it speed up, and I'd love a lot more money devoted to JCO's actions and where they're going and what they want to do. General Gainey, who heads up the JCO, he has a great mission in mind, and he wants to go there, and I'm all for it. I think we've got to get the political support behind it as well. And this has got to be a priority to us. And I think too many times there's other things that we get distracted on and don't focus on what's coming.
Is there anything that we missed that we should talk about?
We'd like to talk about our live event that's coming up in May. It'll be in Bridgedale, Colorado. It's going to be May 24th and 25th. It's for all government, military kind of customers, and also security professionals and some of the major energy industries and things like that. It'll be open to. There are 2 full-day events. Tuesday, the 24th, is a U.S.-only event, and then we open that up to include international customers and users on the 25th, Wednesday the 25th. Reach out to Liteye, and we'll be happy to give you more information if you're interested in attending that. We'll have not only our Shield system out there and the newest and greatest in hardware, but there'll be a lot of our partners as well, and they'll be showing off things that they're working on and things that might be tomorrow's tech. It's a great event. We're excited to be having it in the second year. just grown tremendously just year over year.
And for my final question, Ken, what message would you like to leave on the future of Counter UAS?
It's always striving for that silver bullet, which is going to be a layered approach. That's the future of Counter UAS. That's been the past of Counter UAS as well. And, there's not going to be one perfect thing or one perfect technology that's going to solve all the problems or defend against all the different threats. So to me, we're all striving to get to that culmination of a layered system that can address and evolve on the fly and be able to go to not only today's threats, but tomorrow's threats and the day after that and the day after that.
That's it for episode 344 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Ken Geyer of Liteye Systems and Keven Gambold of Unmanned Experts. I want to thank Ken and Keven for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about Liteye Systems or Unmanned Experts, or want to connect with Ken or Keven, check out the web pages at liteye.com and unmannedexperts.com. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.